One common misconception that marketers and influencers alike are having is that social media is a one-to-many form of communication, and I don't think that's true. I want to ask you guys this question. When was the last time you really sat down and thought about what your goals are on social media? Not just for a specific post or channel, but for all of your efforts combined. Goals are important because they give you something to work for and motivate you to keep trying to improve your content. In the book, The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, he talks about setting a high goal for yourself. His reasoning is because falling short of a big goal will put you in a better spot than falling short of a smaller goal that you set for yourself. So let me frame this for you. An example. Say your goal is to make $100,000. I think you should set that goal to be $1 million. Because if you're shooting for $1 million, think about where you're going to be at if you fall short of that. You're going to be in a better spot than if you fell short of 100,000 or if you even hit 100,000. So my question to you guys is, do you agree with that logic? And what would you guys say is some benefits of setting a high goal?
Yeah. I mean, I honestly really think that whatever you set your mind to, you can achieve. So I would agree, like, set the bar high. Then if you fall low, well, you still would have been way higher than you would have originally.
You're still going to be in a better spot than if you set that low goal.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like that we open up with goals because it's kind of the first thing you want to establish in social media.
Exactly.
Is what do you want to get out of this? What are you trying for? So that's really important. Open with it and have that question in mind throughout your whole entire.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to go in blind, not having any idea of where you want to be, how you want to grow, you know.
Because then how do you know how to inform your content?
How do you even evaluate what you did for the year?
Exactly.
And like this kind of rule, it's like it pushes you. Shoot for the stars, but also don't make it like super unattainable because then you just end up disappointed.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for small businesses, like you can't expect to be like a million followers after a year, but definitely push yourself to get as many as you can, but don't expect to be an influencer after 1 year.
We sound like coaches. Push yourself.
Yes.
Push yourself.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Once you have a goal laid out for yourself, it's important to consider what social media platforms will help you achieve your goal. Did you know that influencers and marketers have figured out that different social media platforms are more effective for achieving different metrics? In the book, Digital Marketing Essentials by Jeff Larson and Stuart Draper, they've created this graphic to organize what social media platforms are best for achieving specific objectives. Based on what you guys have seen across social media platforms, do you think this list holds true? And if not, what would you change about it?
Yeah, I think it is definitely very accurate, especially for advertising. Like you look at Facebook and Instagram, and those two platforms are perfect because they both have a very different audience group in it. You look at Facebook, you have your older adults, Instagram, younger adults. Like you definitely want to make sure you're getting a little bit of everything. You want to include all those different people that could potentially be interested in your product, your company, your service. So yeah, I really like that section of this.
Yeah, I think YouTube is a good secondary form for that because so many people are on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. Especially with shorts now.
Especially with shorts. You can reach a huge audience. You can't narrow it down like you can on Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
But just the mass reach.
Yes, agreed.
I just I just love this because it lays it out so well. And like what we were talking about before with goals, what is your goal? What platforms can you use to obtain this? Because if you're a small business, you don't need every single platform. That's so complicated to manage. If you can just hone in on the platforms where you know you can be successful, push it out on those platforms.
Yes, that's a really good point, especially like when you're just starting out. Like you can definitely do too much to start off. So like, just having those few that you are really like consistent with and very present on is definitely better.
You don't want to spread yourself too thin.
Yeah, for
I think that's why people are kind of scared of digital marketing because they're like, oh my gosh, I need an X, I need a Pinterest, I need a... You don't need all of that. And I mean, even for search engine optimization, I mean, think about it. With being Facebook, you look something up, what's the first thing that pops up usually? Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's really important.
And a lot of these you can see, like, you can kill like two birds with one stone. Like Facebook, Instagram, they're kind of filling in like in every kind of area of it too. So
all right.
Such a great graphic. I just love that.
Yes, it is a really good graphic. I do like that too.
Well, I've got more good graphics for you.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. We started very strong.
Yes, I like this a lot too. Yeah.
Once you figured out what platforms are best to achieve your goals, the next step that many people overlook is posting times. Through extensive research, marketers have been able to narrow down when users are most active on social media. This allows them to make sure that posts are going live during the best possible time in any given day, on any given platform. Looking at these charts, do you guys agree with the times of most traffic indicated by the darker times on the graph? Also, how do you think influencers and businesses can use this information to their advantage when posting?
This is just so surprising to me because you look at Instagram global engagement, you would never think that like the busiest time to post would be like in the middle of the day on Monday.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you would never think that Sunday, a day where people are pretty much just lounging around on
Laying
their
on the
free time,
couch,
would be
yeah.
the worst day to post.
Right.
You would never think that.
Right, but I think knowing it is so beneficial because if
Yeah.
you tie up your Meta Business Suite and if you schedule those posts, we all know everyone's busy. If you don't have the time to be like on your phone monitoring these like exact timings for posting, you can set it ahead. You can schedule it for those times so that you really can get as big of a reach as possible so people can really like utilize your post, maximize your views. Yeah, I would definitely really take advantage of those posting times.
That's where I think a content calendar is really beneficial.
Yes, for
Because
sure.
you can look at these times and think, oh, on this date, it's a good date for me to be posting for whatever field of business you're in.
Exactly.
What time should this post be going live? I can just schedule it now and Meta will take care of it all for you.
Yeah, and even on the same thought, like, or hey, maybe like I'm not doing much on Sundays, but I should know not to because most people apparently aren't active on Sundays. So like, just kind of keeping that in mind too. I mean, you definitely want to make sure you're hitting those key posting times because Connor will touch on it further. But you want to make sure that people, if there's not a big presence when you post, it's not going to be reaching everyone else's feed.
Right.
If it gets a lot of action right away, it's going to get spread out more. So
Absolutely.
it's definitely important to think about that too.
Yeah. It's better to look at it in a whole in this sense. Like think about,
Yes.
you know.
I think something that surprised me from these graphs is like the demographics. Like
Yeah.
looking at the fact that males have like a more presence on Instagram and Facebook was really surprising to me.
Very surprising. Because
Yeah. Yeah, like we're the Facebook moms. I thought they'd tell her to
Yeah.
go to Facebook.
Yeah, literally. Or just like I swear I never see men post on Instagram
No.
like ever.
Literally.
I never do.
Like
I
he
never
never
Exhibit
does.
A,
Right?
Exhibit A.
I'm guilty.
So,
Yeah.
and if they
so
do, it's
interesting.
not much. And I feel like, you know, a lot of like the influencer population is like typically
Female. Yeah, I would
So
agree with that 100%.
it's just it's an interesting thing to think about. And I mean, and the ages as well. I mean, I feel
Ages is pretty typical.
very
I
accurate.
would agree with those numbers for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, I fit the 18 to 24, and I'm definitely more on Instagram than
If you think
Facebook.
about it, it's like the Gen Zs are typically using Instagram,
Mhm.
and the Gen millennials and then Gen X are typically
Yes,
using
for
Facebook.
sure.
Yeah. All right, now I want to segue. One common misconception that marketers and influencers alike are having is that social media is a one-to-many form of communication, and I don't think that's true.
Mhm.
If you think about it,
Oh,
no. How many times are you sitting scrolling through your feed with a group of people, looking over your
You're just
shoulder?
gonna live
You're
stream it
not,
on your
yeah,
TV.
you're
Yeah,
not.
I'm not airplaying my feed on
Right,
YouTube.
right.
No one
Um,
wants to
And
say
thank
that.
God, yeah.
Yeah. So due to this, I think social media is more of a one-to-one form of communication. I want to know your thoughts on that. And
Mhm.
how should that change the approach of businesses or influencers when creating their messaging, creating their captions and titles?
Definitely. I mean, you have to think about everyone as an individual. Even if all three of us pulled up our social medias, all of our feeds would be unique to itself.
Right.
We all have created our own algorithms. So, like, companies definitely have to think about that. Like, the way that their post might appear in yours might not appear in mine, kind of thing. So, they definitely have to consider that they have to, reach out to people, look at them as a person and not as, like, a general, like, population kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you guys 100%. I think that, what Carlene said pretty much took all of the words out of my mouth with that one
Yeah.
there, actually.
I think it's important for the messaging to be. I feel like now businesses are saying things, they're phrasing that they're talking to a group. I feel like it's more important for them to change that phrasing, just tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you're talking to the one viewer that is.
Right.
I feel like that would resonate more and get more attention from them as well.
I agree. Plus, it makes, like, the user, like, the viewer feel, like, more targeted or, like,
Exactly.
more, like, individual. Like, oh, they're talking to me. Like, they're trying to
Get
get...
some more
like,
involved.
they want me. Yeah. They want me to be... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel
Definitely.
like,
More
those,
personalized,
yeah.
more...
People, and like it's a big thing with Gen Z, especially is individualization.
Mhm.
People want to feel like it's me, I'm special.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Very like personable. That's another big thing
Yes,
right
I
now
would
too.
agree.
And yeah, at the end of the day, you're not like if you're with your friends and you're just chilling on someone's couch, you're not all like live streaming and you're TikTok on the feed. You're all watching your own TikToks and you're like, oh, look at this stuff, it's funny, you know.
And like chances are too, like if I see like something that I like an ad, for example, and I feel like really like intrigued by it, I'm gonna have higher chances of like spreading the word about it to other people than if I'm just like, oh, this looks like kind of just like spam almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
All right, I want to touch more on that feeling that we brought up briefly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Branding. It's typically thought of just a logo or a color that your company has, but I think it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
When Marty Neumeyer, the author of The Branding Gap, was on the Future podcast, he said just that. He said branding is a customer's gut feeling about a product, service, or a company. This gut feeling is created by the customer consuming content from a brand and feeling a certain way about it. My question to you is, how do you think brands can modify their content to help their audience form a positive gut feeling and have them thinking highly of their brand?
So I think that one of the most important things that you can do to get people that good gut feeling, to get them to think highly of their brand, is just to understand your audience. So it ties into the individualization thing from before, if I can speak correctly. So it all kind of ties into that. I think, you know, understanding your brand, what does the data tell you? What is it telling you to do to cater to your audience? I think that's really important when it comes to getting people to like think highly of you and want to promote your brand.
Yeah, I agree. I think you hit that on the spot. Definitely want to look into your audience and definitely the kind of people that are in your audience and how you can engage them.
I think it's also about the messaging and the contextualization of the content. Like you want to frame it in like a friendly way,
Right.
so people feel like your brand is more friendly, some they can trust. So I think that also plays a big role into
sure.
it.
Yeah, the tone is super important.
Yeah.
All right, now I want to move into reaching a larger audience, how to get your posts out there. Last week, I was doing some research on this to try to figure out how to get a video form content, short form or large form, in front of a larger audience. In doing so, I came across a researcher by the name of Brendan Kane.
It's Connor's absolute favorite person. By the way.
I've been watching a lot of content from him.
Every day he comes in and he's like, did you guys see this Brandon King video?
Hey, he's been researching virality since 2004, so he's been in the game for a while.
Yeah.
And he's very research based, so he does a lot of research and testing to figure out what works. And he thinks that you need to contextualize your content more to reach a larger audience. So I'm going to show this graphic.
This graph.
This graphic.
I love this graphic.
Let me break it down for you guys. So this cone right here, the dark blue, is your target audience. That's who you think that you want to target with your content. And typically we curtail our content towards them.
Yes.
The large light blue is the whole audience that's on a social platform. And these gray rings are the audience that the algorithms will serve your content to. This first inner circle, when you first post your post, it puts it out to a large sample group, and it wants to see how that group receives your content. Retention, how many people click on it, stuff like that. And if you get enough reactions, enough retention, it'll serve it to the next larger audience. And if you see it, you'll end up getting more of your target audience, which is who you want to get. What Brendan Kane's trying to get at is you want to make your content curtailed to where you can capture this white space, the rest of the audience. So you want to contextualize your content so that a general audience engages with it, likes it, and that'll get it boosted to a larger audience so that therefore you're getting more of your target audience in there as well. So my question to you guys, what are some ways you think influencers in business can utilize this information to make their posts more successful?
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at that circle, I love this graph because when you think about it, your target audience really only is that little fraction. And like when you think about it from this kind of a standpoint, if you're only like creating stuff like directed towards that little piece of the target audience, you're missing out on the majority of the pie or the circle, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's important for businesses to really like look at beyond just their target audience. Because if you think about it, their target audience, they kind of already have in a sense, like they kind of already have them engaged or kind of already part of like what they're doing. So I think it's important to be like, okay, so I have this little group. How can I expand that?
How can you grow it from
and exactly, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like contradicting of what I think that some people have heard before. Because all you
Mhm.
hear when you're like making your first social media platforms or you're going into digital marketing is target audience, specialization, like
Mhm.
individualization, like what we were talking about before. But in reality, you want to specialize it to some degree, and you want the audience again to have that one-to-one communication, that the individualization. I'm really struggling with that word today aspect of it.
It's a big
But as you can see here, you're hitting people that aren't in your initial target audience, and they also want to feel understood.
Mhm.
So I think it's really important to generalize that content to some degree as well.
I think the key is to have your content to where your niche audience is going to be captured by. You still want to keep them in mind because
Right,
like, at the end of the day, you don't want to make
Lose
your
them,
you don't want to lose your target audience.
Right.
But it's framing that content in a way that anybody can engage with and
Yeah.
finds appealing.
Mhm.
So
And I think it's important too, from like a social media standpoint, when you look at that original circle, like who you're posting to,
Mhm.
if you can attract more than just your target audience, it is going to blow up and get so much more publicity because it's going to keep expanding on the next ring. It's going to keep moving forward. And as you can see, like the farther along you move in the rings, the more like bigger it gets with like the people that aren't engaged. So the more people you can attract and just get that brand awareness for yourself too.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.